Welcome to episode 120 of the ADHD Dadults podcast. I am James Brown, king of very basic iced tea. I
Utter
didn't read that very well.
bastards. Utter bastards. We'll explain that in a bit.
Also, king of iced tea. So,
Is that what I said?
Hi there, and welcome to episode 120 of the ADHD Adults podcast. So, ADHD Dadults, we're going to have to get out of the fucking way. Obviously, I sent a WhatsApp yesterday because we've set up a Gmail account because we're separating the podcast and we need to store stuff online. And I'd set it up. And when I went to log in, it said, you can't log in, the password's changed. And it was Alex's email for recovery and Alex's phone number for recovery. And I thought, he's changed the password and he's changed the account. So I sent a message, Alex, have you changed the password? And he went, no, I didn't even know we'd got it. And then I quite passively, aggressively replied to the message earlier that day saying, this is the login details and the password. And he went, no, I haven't. I'm not sure. And I thought, he obviously has. He's gone in there and he's just, reset it so he can get in there. And then I noticed that I'd set it up as the ADHD Dadults at gmail.com.
And the brilliant thing is, you genuinely thought I somehow had magically got the IT skills to hack into an account. You just registered and changed the password.
Yep.
I know. I said, There's no way he's ever going to look at that account. He won't have logged in and changed the password.
Yep.
But as I said to you actually yesterday, Alex, it's like he's emotionally battering himself without even realizing. It's like, can I ever be a dad? No. Have I got a dad? No. What shall I accidentally call this? The ADHD Dadults.
That's exactly what it is. He's like a pound shop Freud, isn't he?
Every time I log in, it's like, oh.
And I was really confused because last November I registered that email and I sent James the password, and I now have no recollection of what that might be or how to get in there. Or
ding.
Very good ding. Anyway, I'm James Brown, the man who is a man. So isn't really qualified to talk about the subject today, which is PMDD. And of course, I'm joined by Dr. Alex Connor, who is also a man, sort of. And of course, by Mrs. ADHD, who is, of course, a man. Sorry, a woo man. Alex, hi.
Good evening, James.
Fuck's sake. Problem is, now I remember why you do these. They actually do irritate me. I wish I could go back to that. And I will do, obviously, at some point. Beautiful time where I forgot.
Sam, someone actually contacted me on Instagram from Australia to say really politely, would it annoy James if you said good evening if it was the morning and if you said it in a distinguished voice? So I asked James, he said, yes, it fucking would. I wish I could remember. I'm going to have a look for his name and say it after the break because I forgot.
They know me too well. And Mrs. ADHD, hi.
Hello.
How are you both? Mrs. ADHD first. Yeah, I mean, I know the answer obviously is not good. The phone and the laptop being thrown last night is a good indicator of your mood and mental state. So I'll move on to Alex. Hi, Al. How are you?
Hello. I'm excellent, thank you. And it was Scott. I don't know if we can say Williams, but that's a common name anyway. Who wrote us a letter that is amazing as well. I'll read it another time. Yeah, really good, thank you. Sam's not allowed to speak because she thinks she'll cry. I'm going, Mike, that's my job, is to make me cry today. Numbers are huge, according to the metrics guy, who's lazy but sent me an email. And that, incidentally, is despite us being asked to make sure that this sweary shambolic podcast supports the charity as a private entity and isn't the official charity podcast. And we've been asked by the trustees and the charity commission, and actually even basic common sense. And one of them sent us a letter. One of the listeners, not one of the trustees.
Did they? And sorry, that's confused even me. So the podcast can promote the charity, which I think it does, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it isn't part of the charity, obviously, because of our behaviour.
Yes.
And also the charity. I just realised earlier on in the script, when we were passive aggressively having a go at each other, when we're writing the script at the same time, and you can see what Alex is typing, I'll type stuff, and I typed in "you vapid arse crease," but
You
couldn't
also
see
said I
where
was
I'd
a
typed
Jimmy
it.
Savile fan.
I did, and I've just noticed that I've put it in this bit, so it says "I bet you vapid arse crease" for no reason, and that's because I typed it in the wrong place. Yeah, all that was confusing, but the charity and not the podcast has officially now been nominated for a National Diversity Award.
Not even nominated,
awkward.
James. You vapid arse crease. Shortlisted.
Oh, shortlisted. Sorry, shortlisted. Yeah,
we were nominated ages ago. Shortlisted.
Yeah, I get shortlisted. That's a mistake.
I thought we'd been kicked off that and churlishly unfollowed Auto Trader because they sponsor the award. I'm so sorry, Auto Trader. I won't do it again. They're actually quite funny on Twitter.
Excellent.
That's right, James. The letter's from a Robert from Kidderminster, sort of. It says, I'm just going on with it. It says, I listened to your episode on bipolar and ADHD, and bipolar isn't super easy to make light of in a joke letter. He goes on to write, having said that, did you know that James first experienced mania in 1987, although that was Bros mania, as he followed the band Bros around the West Midlands shouting, when will I be famous at them? Never, James, you'll never be famous.
You know this. You know one. I hated Bros. You know I had.
No, you desperately wanted to be famous.
The whole I did, but the whole
you had Grohl people in your shoes, and you know it.
I fucking oh my god!
I think I put the cat amongst the pigeons there, Sam.
Don't do that. You know I love pigeons.
It's a Bros reference. It's their, I believe, the fourth single.
Really?
You're definitely the Craig from Bros, aren't you, Alex?
Thank you.
And we're the twins.
We've had a real
letter.
Like
Can I read it out? Schwarzenegger and... Oh, yeah, go on.
It says, hi all. Just wanted to share two things with the three of you. One,
I'm Danny DeVito, obviously.
You are a bit. One, love the new longer ding outro of the podcast, which I've 100% definitely heard. I've always felt the theme music was way too short because it absolutely kicks dopamine ass, which means arse, I believe. The bell tolling made me grin like an idiot. Have you thought of releasing the outro as a full-length ding single now that you're on Spotify, Sam? B, nice. Now that there's video on Spotify, Sam, I feel like I have to go. So Sam really is feeling anxious about the Spotify, even though it's all of us. Sam takes responsibility for everything, which means I don't have to. Anywho, I feel like I have to go through every episode twice, once to see your collective crazy, and once to actually hear what you're saying. Watching and hearing at the same time does not compute, unfortunately, perhaps because of the thing, dunno. Lots of love from Poland or Finland, depending on where I am at the moment. Zuza. And I thought it meant just don't know which it is, which it would have been funnier. That's a lovely, brilliant message.
Were you unaware that you changed the outro, James?
Yeah, I think the tech guy made a mistake there.
And put the whole thing in.
Did they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
anyway, you have Sessions to thank for this. It's his music,
Pat,
and maybe he could put it out as a 12-inch ding.
You know, Sam, Session sent me video of a rave where my voice was included in the.
I know, yeah.
What is going on with our lives since we started nonsense?
Well, that was all down to him, to be honest.
Everything's all down to him.
I know.
I'm still thrown by that.
Yeah, internationally, yes. James. Really good question.
Yes.
If I check and I'm scrumpling paper, I guess I just say it out loud now.
Yeah.
162 countries. What are the chances? I think you know. This week's country is almost certainly not Monaco, more of a principality, James, where very unhelpfully,
for fuck's sake,
the script guy has chosen not the fucking obvious French, but he's chosen Monegasque, which is derived from Ligurian, a Gallo-Roman language spoken in Liguria, the coastal region in northern Italy, and which James definitely didn't have to Google for about 20 minutes. So wildly overconfident, salut et un cantao to one Monaco local who's banned from every casino, so only listens to the podcast because they run an underground gambling ring based on how many times Sam gets distracted on the podcast. The answer is many, many, many times. She's distracted right now.
She really is. Anyway, as usual, this Speed 2 cruise control of a podcast is a tragedy in 3 parts.
I don't know what that is.
Did you not see the sequel
where he
to the
puts a
film
brick on?
Speed? That...
Oh, they have sex.
No, you're
while
thinking.
they're driving a car.
No. You're thinking of Father Ted, Sam, where he puts a brick on a milk float that goes around an island on the accelerator pedal.
Speed.
Oh, it's a film.
Oh God, this really shouldn't take this long, should it? Anyway,
Sorry.
It's a bad film.
Carry
it's a
on.
bad film. It's a bad film. We choose a theme. Last week was about ADHD and bipolar disorders, and this week, based on last week, because we realised that we should do something on PMDD, we're going to talk about a different mood disorder, and one that actually, looking at the list of requested episodes, we've been asked for fucking ages to cover, and that's premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD. Thanks to Annie, Miss Crawley off of Discord, and Megan for asking for us to cover this, and anybody else that asked for something related, yes, discard. Change that in the script. As usual, 3 parts include the Keith Orville of evidence, Alex the psycho education monkey.
Hello.
Telling us all about the topic, our personal reflections on the theme for what they're worth with 2 men and a Mrs ADHD. And then finally, the top tips, tippics, spunk trumping, Gabby, Loganing, etc. up to the last part. So, Alex, I'm not going to make any jokes for this bit, as we now suspect that Sam has PMDD. And that's not out of respect. You know, it's largely out of fear because her biceps are way bigger than mine. Tell us about PMDD.
Yeah, that is a wise choice. She could kill us easily, both of us. Okay, it's important to start, obviously, by saying that between 2/3 and 3/4 of our little team here are male, and therefore don't have lived experience of PMDD. But as anyone who was listening last week might remember, there is a chance that a third of us does have lived experience of PMDD. If you Google premenstrual dysphoric disorder, the full name for PMDD, which, you know, the script guy clearly did, you might find it described as very severe form of PMS, or premenstrual syndrome. And that's what the mental health charity Mind says about PMDD. And Mind is a brilliant organization, and what they're doing is reflecting the terms people tend to use, and also that there is some confusion in the big book of doctor words that James consults. But PMDD itself was added to the DSM-5. That's the most recent version of the Handbook of Psychiatry, we keep banging on about. And in the DSM-5, PMDD is actually what PMS is now called in psychiatric terms.
So are they the same? Is that what you're saying? They're the same things?
It's such a good question, Sam. James, I'm fairly certain we don't need you anymore for all of this section. You can do something else.
Brilliant.
It does ruin my next joke, Sam, in the script, which says...
joke.
It says, probably didn't read it out though, did I? So you'll have to frantically change that last bit. And you did, for bloody once. So
well,
annoying.
I didn't read out what you said, but I read out something similar.
No, of course.
Yeah, it's raw.
Was that oppositional? Was that oppositional? Did you see it and think, actually, I'm going to read out something that's just slightly different because it'll throw him off?
No, I just went with my original thought and then saw the comment and thought it's similar.
Brilliant.
Fuck you, that'll do.
I'll do.
In the past 50 years, so James, blink of an eye for you, the term PMS, or premenstrual syndrome, has become pretty much accepted everywhere. And there are some effective treatments being available, depending on whether you talk to women or not about that. A knock-on effect of this is that the widespread public awareness of premenstrual experience. Many women now use the term PMS as a noun or as an adjective, as a verb, such as I'm PMSing. And the types of large multinational companies that sell, let's say, supplements that do fuck all for people's health, those people.
Have we checked? Sorry, I know we have a lawyer because she lives with you. You checked that statement.
I have, yes, but our lawyer is still a pebble, James, that you've put googly eyes on. So I wouldn't say it's watertight defense. Anyway, these large bullshit companies started selling over-the-counter remedies promoted as cures in James's little rabbit ears for PMS, exploiting the fact that many women believe they suffer from the disorder PMS. This next bit is a hospital pass from the script guy, who's a twat, because, of course, this might be a difficult thing to hear coming from a male of sorts, but there may be in the literature confusion between the disorder PMS and premenstrual physical effects that most women face with their period. Research suggested that most women, over 90%, in fact, say they get premenstrual symptoms, bloating, headaches, moodiness, and so on. And this has been conflated with the actual symptoms of the disorder PMS. Confused? Of course you're not. This is not downplaying the impact of, in inverted commas, normal premenstrual symptoms. Rather, they're two different unpleasant things. The symptoms and varying severity of PMS. The syndrome are the reason that most women report that they have it. The symptoms of PMS are and now this is from the Big Book of Nonsense, a combination of physical and emotional symptoms that many women get after ovulation and before the start of their menstrual period, which is hand-wavingly vague. Clearly, this has led to PMS being more clearly defined as moderate severe PMS and PMDD, which has technically replaced PMS as a diagnosis for many women. Clear?
No, not really. So it used to be PMS and now it's PMDD, but PMS still exists. It's just not as severe as PMDD.
Oh, okay. Now you're listening. Unbelievable. that Monaco gambler's going to lose his shirts. I did expect James to be listening and to ask that exact question, so I have got some prepared. Script guy did it. Here are some definitions, which are absolutely not a boring list of three things. They are that. PMS itself, as a term, does continue to be used, James. Well, for the reasons mentioned earlier, it encompasses a really wide range of severity, and therefore it's not particularly used medically speaking. Around a third of women, maybe 30% of women in the UK, would fit into the category of having PMS. Molimina, which I bet almost none of our listeners have heard of, especially the men, and I'm definitely not reading it myself out loud for the first time. I am, literally the first time I've said it out loud. That refers to a group of symptoms that can occur before menstruation. Around 80 to 90% of women will at some point in their lives experience these symptoms, which explains that 90% of women who report that they have the disorder PMS. It's really important, again, to stress that this is not a pleasant thing to have to deal with. Nobody's downplaying that. They're different things, regardless of medical names and categories. And C, or something, PMDD is used to describe a severe constellation of symptoms. Importantly, mostly psychiatric ones. James, you've actually taken my joke out, haven't you? Genuinely removed it.
No, where? Well, I haven't. Where?
I was very happy with that.
I've removed nothing, sir.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it. PMDD is a more severe constellation of symptoms, psychiatric ones, that lead to periodic interference with day-to-day activities and interference with interpersonal relationships. The mostly psychiatric part of that explains why there's a change in that DSM-5 book. Women with this degree of symptoms probably comprise about 3 to 5% of the women who are in their reproductive years, which is close to the prevalence in the UK. Which I mentioned earlier, the criteria for that, for PMDD itself, are that in the majority of menstrual cycles, at least 5 symptoms from what is quite a long list, what includes marked mood swings, marked irritability, nicely vague again, low mood, anxiety, and interestingly, symptoms such as difficulty concentrating and being overwhelmed. These need to be present in the week before menstruation, and they need to resolve in the days after menstruation.
The entirety of that, which was interesting, my brain is obviously screaming something ADHD.
Wait. As we've said before, psychiatry can move incredibly slowly for good reasons, but frustratingly. It took years for PMDD to be added to the DSM. But this is a really important change because the critical involvement of the menstrual cycle in pretty much all psychiatric disorders is now medically widely accepted. The term PMDD in medical terms is now reserved for that more severe constellation of symptoms. I'm doing a joke now, fuck it. It's probably the serious constellation. You see?
No, I don't.
Because serious sounds like serious, and that is
serious. Jesus. I mean, I think we need to talk about what jokes are, Alex, don't we? At some point, have a hard chat, really, about what a joke is. Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
I can add tumbleweed at this point, so people really, really
just
feel the
anything to
impact.
fill the silence, really.
Yeah. Crippling, awkward silence of a great joke. You're messing about. So the term PDD is this mostly psychiatric disorder that leads to periodic in the Menzies sense interference with day-to-day activities and interference with interpersonal relationships. As we've said before, James, there is evidence that women with ADHD often experience even more severe mood changes. I feel like this accent's not appropriate for what's a really serious disorder. No. Even more severe mood changes. This is why it's not part of the charity, isn't it? We've got to go private. During episodes of hormonal changes. I'm so sorry. Because the change in categorizing severe PMS to PMDD means that research, which has only recently started to look at ADHD and PMDD, is difficult to find. Of course it fucking is, because it's about ADHD and it's about women, both underfunded research groups. One study found that the prevalence of PMDD in a small population of women with ADHD was, ready, more than 45%. Remember, it's 3 to 5% of the average population. Wow, although in that group, they found it in 28% of the population, but it's still wildly higher. In the most comparable group, women with severe premenstrual symptomology, that should have been symptomatology. So at the time of this research, and we're having to go back and rewrite what the papers say, because there wasn't a representative value for PMDD at the time. So they went for the most severe premenstrual symptoms. If you compare it to the 5 to 8% of women now classified as PMDD, really, that is a whopping difference. It's 45%, or even compared to 5% people with ADHD compared to normos. This was a small study, and it's really thin evidence of a link, but there is much stronger evidence of a link between, for example, bipolar disorders, which we covered last week inexpertly. So bipolar and PMDD are really relatively strongly linked. And remember, ADHD is associated with an increased risk of also having bipolar of almost 8-fold. And many people with bipolar, including me, also get misdiagnosed with ADHD and vice versa. What all this means is that there is a very strong expectation, we think, that PMDD is more prevalent and highly so in women with ADHD. But guess what? We need more research again.
I'm not leaving vice versa alone. We're going to talk about that in part 2.
Oh, I know exactly what you're thinking. In original Latin, it would have been vice. I was thinking it myself.
No.
Alex, hi. Aight. What's up? Hello, governor.
Welcome back to episode 120 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we're talking about ADHD and PMD. These are our personal reflections on PMDD. You know what I got distracted by then, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
James, what are your personal reflections?
Oh, well, many, Sam, obviously. This is difficult as a man. Alex and I are very clear and open about our lack of intersectionality, but the fact that we acknowledge that we are, white, middle class, middle aged, slightly overweight in Alex's case, males, and we're both lefty, kind of liberal, woke people that like to try and when you're not killing, Alex, that like to try and to think about as many different demographics and groups as we can. It's one of the reasons that we love doing this, is to try and reach out and help people. And it is difficult, though, as a man, obviously, even one with medical knowledge, to talk about this from a personal perspective. But from my personal perspective, it obviously comes from Sam to some extent, and I'm sure she'll obviously speak with more value about this. But I, as somebody with medical knowledge, as a biomedical scientist, as somebody that's, pretend professor, etc., I didn't know about the PMS, PMDD thing. And I definitely hadn't ever heard the fucking word molinema before in my life. So it's not surprising that women would think that they have PMS when they have a very unpleasant, period of time before they menstruate. How the fuck are women supposed to get help when people who know about medical stuff aren't really sure of the difference between it? And when there are companies out there that are selling you, these well-packaged £12.99 for a month's supply of some herb that will do fuck all, because there's no evidence, but they don't need it because they sell supplements. Yes, to treat the PMS you've got that might not be PMS and might be PMDD or might be molinema, etc. It's hard enough, Ding, for women to get help with these things. We've said this before. The issues like, endometriosis and PMDD, if they were male issues, I'm pretty sure a lot more research would be going on into them. I'm not saying they'd be cured, but I'm sure we would understand them and have better treatments for them. Yeah. And there's just one last thing. I made a note of this. It said something about the effect of, the menstrual cycle on psychiatric disorders is widely accepted. That kind of made me snigger, because I know a psychiatrist who's actually well thought of in their field that said in a piece of communication about something you and I are both working on, there's no evidence that hormones affect mental health, which I thought, oh my God. And that really gives you an impact into the knowledge and understanding of the basic biology and interplay with psychiatry that a consultant psychiatrist would say. There's no evidence that hormones affect mental health. I mean, fuck them. And Sam?
Oh, God. I put widely accepted the script because I didn't want to hurt people's feelings if they were medical professionals. And I thought as I'm writing it, is it though? Is it? Have you asked a woman? Sorry.
I mean, we've realized that I have this for almost dead bang on a week before I come on my period, and it's more difficult now because my periods are more irregular because I'm going through the perimenopause. So I'll go through a spate of like bleeding every week, which is a bit of a nightmare, and then I won't bleed for months, and I never know when I'm going to come on. But this is a pretty good indicator for me, actually, now. If I start tracking my mood, about a week before I come on, I am fucking terrible. I'm so low. I'm so anxious. I'm so angry. I just have all the things going on. It's just awful, and it affects everything. And probably for the first 2 or 3 days that I'm bleeding as well. So I've just started bleeding now, and I'm still really angry and really upset, and had a complete meltdown last night where I threw my phone and my laptop and I was just hysterically crying. It's an absolute nightmare for me, and I don't know what I can do about it. So I've tried all the supplements that you can take for like long term, and they actually do work for some people. Some people report back that they work for them, but for me, just nothing works, and I don't know what I can do about this and what can be done. I don't think there is any help for this, is there? Or is there?
No, there are treatment. Remember, you're talking about the psychiatric impact of this, so that clearly there is help in terms of medications that can help control the mood swings, etc., that can help control the anxiety. There are talking therapies that can help with the psychiatric elements of it, and that's really the key here. Is for many people, the physical symptoms premenstrually are bad enough and mood swings, but when it gets to the point that it is marked mood swings, marked irritability, marked anxiety, that is having an effect on your ability to function, on your relationships, then you're looking at a psychiatric disorder that can be supported through psychiatric and psychological therapies
and medical therapies as well. So there's an SSRI
Yes, and I was going to say, actually, I was better when I was on antidepressants, definitely. And I know, and you two will know a lot more about this than me, but I know that lots of women, for this very reason, will increase their dose of the ADHD medication during this time. And that's
Yeah.
something I've not really thought about before, because I didn't know that I had it, which sounds ridiculous, but I'm not very good at knowing what I'm feeling, and I'm not very good at self-reflecting on that. But that's something maybe I could look at, is increasing my medication during this time, because I know that can be done.
We obviously don't tell people to do that without medical help, but we know a lot of people
Obviously,
do.
yeah.
And one of the treatments for PMDD is an SNRI, which is like, so Prozac's an SSRI, that's just serotonin, but SNRI is a serotonin and noradrenaline, and that's 2/3 of Lisdex. So it's Lisdex without
Right.
affecting dopamine. It's literally one of the medical therapies that the Obs and Gynae College recommend for PMDD. So yeah, plus all the other stuff. They also talk about the extreme surgical hysterectomy type things, which, as a man, it makes me very, very uncomfortable that that's how we think women should be treated for these things. But you know,
Yeah. No,
I
I
don't know how you
nearly
feel
had
about that.
a hysterectomy myself, actually, and I don't know, would that help with it? Because that was the next thing I was going to have, wasn't it? The surgeon was going to give me for my, because I've got endometriosis and
Endometriosis.
adenoma,
Adenomyosis.
that one. Yeah, so I was going to have a hysterectomy for that, but then that improved a little bit as I'm going through the perimenopause now. It's not as bad. I can cope with the pain, and that's the only kind of thing that I thought. But yeah, maybe if this could help with that. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud about myself, and this has got nothing
But
to do.
well, that's it, isn't it? That's what you do, and that's why. Oh God, I'm going to vomit. That's why I've learned so much about periods and PMDD from you, because other people don't say when I'm bleeding, because culturally
Yeah.
we're expected not to. Women are expected not to, right? And it's just a word. It's just a fact. I have nosebleeds all the time. It is literally the same thing. And yet,
Sorry, I've just remembered something, but I'll bring it up later.
is it like
listen,
you've got a bus to catch?
This is horribly ableist language with a vampire in the room for you to consistently talk about blood.
It is. Oh God. Oh, you've got ever so pale, James. Actually, forget that. You haven't. It's normal. And I've started trying to read
Can I just
books.
ask?
Yeah.
So because I'm going to talk about this probably in Thursdays about how my week's gone, but
Friday.
I've been Friday. Yeah. I have actually had my appointment now with the GP. You know, I kept forgetting it and not answering the phone and stuff. I've now had my shared care agreement signed.
Oh, well
and I've
done.
been handed back to my GP. Yay! So now if I wanted to increase my medication for this week or so, I'd probably have to go back to a titration nurse, wouldn't I?
Well, you can't anyway because you're on 70. But yeah.
But some people take a top up, don't they? I could maybe.
Yeah, it's complicated. If you're on a mixture of short release and prolonged release, and you have some flexibility within your prescription, and your titrator has said on some days you can't top up at this point, but obviously if it impacts your sleep, that's up to you. In your case, on Lisdex, you're on the top dose, and therefore you can't take more than 70.
Some people who are on the top dose also take a top up of methylphenidate or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult pharmacological question of how they get hold of it and if it's medically prescribed or not. And
it's through the titration team.
Okay, then it's you will have to go back to the mental health team. The GP wouldn't be able to do that unless they felt it was appropriate and they were very, very well trained, and then they can. It's a medical decision.
They're not.
You could also talk to them about SNRIs. This is what this is for. Yeah. This is literally what the podcast is for, to have these conversations. I don't know why I'm defending you today, Sam.
I have come off my antidepressants, actually, because I haven't needed them since I've been on Lisdex.
And you seem fine.
Yeah, that's the thing, actually. I generally I am, but this period, actually, I do not cope well at all. So maybe that's something I need to talk to my GP about. Maybe I could. Antidepressants are difficult though, because you can't just keep coming on and off them.
No,
it's not like I think it's our medication, which you can come off and off, or off and on.
I think there are ways in which we can deal with it by trying to work out rough. I know it's when you're perimenopausal, the dates vary, but trying to work out when we think it might happen, and both of us understanding that this is going to be a time when you are going to be, suffering from those extremes of irritability and mood swings, as well as the physical things, and we can then work around that rather than having to take an extra medication which you wouldn't need for 3 weeks of the month. Anyway, Alex, have you done your bit?
Alex, yes. Sorry. No, he hasn't. I'm sorry. I just talked over him constantly and continue to do so.
Have I done my bit on my personal reflections of premenstrual dysphoria? No. So I've learned a lot from Sam, and I think we say worser as well.
Worser?
That's God. One for the Latin enthusiasts. I get a lot of hate on the social medias for my grammar pedantry against you two. Somebody sent me a message.
It would be VK. It would be VK. It wouldn't.
Well, it would have been a worse sound, I think, like wenny weedy witchy. They probably would have used a word noise. But somebody sent me a thing saying, when you criticize Sam for saying disinterested, look, dictionary definition of disinterested can mean exactly what she said. So I've had to explain that all language is organic, and I only ever criticize you two to be horrible. Nobody should criticize anyone's language. I've said it before. It is just to piss Sam and James off. I don't have any personal reflections. What I will say for men out there is, do not point out PMDD to your partner unless you're supernaturally sure that your feedback has been requested. This, I have discovered, is fundamental.
Oh, what did you go to Lisa and say? You've got this. You're a nightmare a week before your period.
I don't think so. I don't think I would have. Doesn't sound like the sort of mistake I would.
Doesn't sound like you, does it?
No, at all.
Anyway, I'm missing several fingers.
This is enjoyable, but it's going on. So we have got time for a game, but it's going to have to be
no time.
No, it's not you. It's Alex. Really, really quick game, Alex. It's about blood tests. Are you ready? I was meant to have, ironically, blood. I was meant to have a blood test yesterday. Obviously, I got it wrong. So how did I get it wrong? And this may have happened before, but it's definitely a different game. So did I go on the wrong day? Did I go to the wrong place? Or had I made the wrong appointment? I made a GP appointment instead. Wrong day, wrong place, wrong appointment.
I don't think it's wrong day, because you never go out in the day because you can't. You'd explode. You're a vampire. I don't think it was the wrong place, because you can smell blood for 3,000 kilometers because you're a Dracula. So it's the wrong appointment. You spoke to your GP.
I've got to say, I'm obviously thrilled you're wrong, but that's the best. That is the best series of answers you've done. That was brilliant. No, I went to the wrong place. And it was only when I was trying to log in on the screen, it kept saying no, and it kept saying no. And I looked, I went, oh no, yeah, Smethwick, not Albury.
It's not quite Sussex, sorry, is it? But still.
But I'd also put it in my diary twice for the wrong day, so I may have been there at the wrong time and in the wrong place. It's just ADHD. So I think we're 11. I think that's 13 all. But well done for being funny. Probably the third time in your life. We'll take a break and we'll be back for part 3.
Trumpet.
Welcome back to episode 120 of the ADHD Adults podcast. We are talking about all things PMDD, premenstrual dysphoria disorder. As always in part 3, we've got a man's top tips for women with premenstrual symptoms. This is a tightrope. That's all I'm going to say. I guess we'll hear from Sam. I should start with you, James, first, obviously. James, top tips?
Obviously, yes. Well, I obviously don't have a tip for women. I have a tip for men, and that's obviously for the men who.
That was a good thing. That was
really good, and
it's true.
That was a good.
It is actually true.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
For both.
Yes. If I can just give my tip, Dean,
sorry.
Then yes, it's for men. It's for the men that live with women, work with women, support women, which is all men. and that's advocate, support, listen, and accept. We shouldn't live in a society where women feel they can't talk about period products and menstruation. We shouldn't live in a society where men say to women, oh God, you're PMSing, if they show any emotion whatsoever. Men need to sort themselves the fuck out and start supporting women, because we don't have to live with this. And we are kind of wonderfully, naively uninvolved in that. It's a thing we don't talk about. We don't talk about that. We don't let you talk about that because we don't want to know, because it's grim, and yes, she gets moody, blah blah blah, etc. If this was a thing that men had, well, men wouldn't have it because we'd fixed it. So men, sort yourself out, support women, don't fucking use PMS as a pejorative term. Listen, advocate, support. Sam?
Oh, me.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the thing I'm going to say is I've literally just been trying to sorry. The tracker is really important, and I've just been trying to catch up and think about how I've felt the last few days and put it in there, because I do forget to do this tracker all the time, but it does build up a picture over time, and then that helps you to see that this time, if I look around this time every month, it's the same, and I just lose it completely. And it's useful to know that, not just for yourself, so that you know that it's temporary and it will happen. It's also useful to know that, so that you can, if you feel safe and able to do so, speak about this to other people, to warn them that this time's coming up. I'm coming up to this time now, and I'm going to be a fucking nightmare. Not just people that you live with, people that you work with as well, because they will have fucking noticed it as well. I believe you. And if you feel safe and able to do so, overshare to the point that it embarrasses people. I mean, I work with a lot of the guys, my line manager and the boss that's up higher, that they're men, but they fucking know everything about me. I mean, my line manager, I've had to walk in when I'm literally covered in blood, and I've covered the chair in blood because I've bled through everywhere, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to go home, and he's really embarrassed, and it's just like, yeah, just go. But kind of oversharing like that, it makes them realize that this isn't just because and I'm really guilty of this as well. I underplay things. I can be in so much pain, and I can be struggling so much emotionally, and just pretend that I'm okay. It's what we do, right? We're really good at masking, and that kind of extends sometimes to things like this. But you need to show people that you're struggling, otherwise they're not going to understand why you're not performing in the same way, why you're not dealing with same things in the same way as usual. They need to understand, and that it might take you out of your comfort zone a little bit. But if you feel safe and able to do so, I would share this with people. And what it does then is it enables other people to share as well, because when you're open, and I've noticed this, the more open I am with people, with men and women, it gets them to tell me their experiences as well. And then before you know it, everybody's talking about it, and it's just a normal thing that we're all like, oh right, oh yeah, it's rag week, I'm bleeding, so I'm a bit of a nightmare this week. And then it's just accepted, and we all just support each other, and that's kind of what you need to do. So that would be my top tip. And also, if supplements work for you, carry on taking them. If you want to try them, try them. If you want to go back to your GP and try some medication or something, then do whatever you feel you need to do. Sorry.
We could summarize that as do things. Do lots of things.
Do all those
just
things.
Do anything. Do anything
tip,
that you feel you
my
need
top
to
tip
do.
Is do what Sam says. It's just accurate. My top tip is I've got a tip for women about talking about periods. It's this: we're not little boys who need protecting, but that's what society has allowed to happen. And actually, I don't think I like that either. Now, we talk about these things all the time, right? And you get used to it, like your boss has, and you get used to it very quickly to a point where you feel empowered that you can talk about even more things safely, and you go from fear to empowerment very fucking quickly. So yeah, it's not really a top tip. I haven't got anything, have I? But I'll just say that I got used to it so quickly from a position of thinking that I should be embarrassed to you can't be embarrassed if you spend time with Sam for more than about 30 seconds.
Are we done?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Lovely. Well, thank you. No, stop apologising. This is a really important subject, and I think you two have done really well on it. Was I in this? I don't know. That was episode 120 of the ADHD Dadult podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fucking live that one down now, am I? That's going to go on a t-shirt as well.
Yeah.
Episode 120 of the ADHD Dadult podcast, where we talked about ADHD and premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMD. It's also important to note all the top tips really are for any women that have any premenstrual symptoms, not just PMDD. Really, it's all women should be supported. If by a miracle you enjoyed this episode, why not support the ADHD Adult UK charity that, just checking my legal notes, this private podcast raises money for on the link provided, because otherwise Alex will have to carry on being a Powerpuff Girl mascot at Comic-Con. Contact us.
Wait, Powerpuff Girl reference. Is that a bit of a cell phone, James?
I am proud of my bronyism and Powerpuff Girl.
Can I out myself as a wanker just for a second and say that if
I don't think you need to.
I mean, no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
We all
I don't.
know.
It's like lefty wokey twat. If you identify as a man and you have a period, we include you as well. Hi.
Obviously.
Yeah, I did. We kept saying women, and we know we meant. Everyone.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, good point then. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah,
it's just
anybody
virtue
that has a
signaling. I
period,
hate
obviously.
everyone. I hope you all die.
By your hands, preferably.
Yeah, preferably.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, good point, actually.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, and well made. No, it's fine. It's kind of
fine.
It's just ending now, isn't it? It's kind of
Contact us on Discord
Bye.
and the socials
Yes.
and that sort of thing.
Yes.
That's
Bye
what I was
all.
waiting for. Bye, everyone.
Trigger warning.